So I think maybe what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get started. I think we have a great agenda lined up for today, and I am very excited to hear our presenters today talk about their work. So I'll just give a brief introduction to our presenters or of our presenters. So we have John Powell, who will be joining us to present today on their work on personal flotation device use in the communities of Coma and Busikira. John is working with he's an international life-saving manager and works with the Royal National Lifeboat Institution in the UK, so RNLI. And then Becky Sindall is an international public health researcher. And she, I think, yeah, you are also working with RNLI. And both of them did a presentation for our life jacket panel at iFish, which was excellent. And I think showed a lot of innovation and creativity. And so excited that they'll both be able to share what they presented for those who weren't able to join that session or who weren't able to attend iFish. So yes, so they'll be presenting. I think other than that, we don't have any other updates except to say perhaps that we are working on uploading the PowerPoints of the presentations for iFish, and we're hoping those will be uploaded in the next few weeks or month. So we'll be sure to let people know when those are ready to be viewed on the website. And also I will note that FAO has completed their write-up of the proceedings of iFish 6, and we are hoping those will be released on the FAO website soon. So, and Jennifer, I see you're here. Okay, so I don't know if you had any other general updates, but please jump in.
Hi, everyone. Jennifer Lincoln here from NIOSH. Julie, the only other thing that I wrote down was just a reminder of the special issue of the Journal of Agrimedicine and the call for papers that are related to iFish, either for work that was presented at iFish or perhaps inspired by iFish. And that call for, we could put a link in the chat in a minute. But so that call for papers is out and they're due September 15th. So that was the only other announcement that I had thought of ahead of time, Julie, to share with this group.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. And I'll be sending out another notice at the end of this month. So if people want to wait to get that email, they could also do that. But the other thing I'll note is if anyone is not presenting, if you could just put yourself on mute, that would be great. All right, and then I'll note that the presentation today is being recorded, so we will be uploading this to the iFish site. So if you know of anyone who wanted to join us today but couldn't, you can access that on the iFish website. So John and Becky, I don't know, are you guys able to easily share your PowerPoint, or maybe you were just going to talk us through it?
Hang on a second, it should be able to share. So what will happen is that I will start off and then John will take over.
Okay, that's great. And I don't know if you guys want to just put that in presentation mode. It might be a little easier. Yeah, okay. But yeah, it looks good. We can see it. Yeah, it should.
It's because the bar is across the top. It makes it very difficult to
get
right. Presentation mode.
Yeah, that's true. It might be able to be accessed at the bottom.
Do it that way. There we go. All right.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
So today we're going to be talking about PFD usage and the challenges and some of the solutions that we're looking at for PFD usage in small-scale artisanal fisheries in East Africa and specifically in Tanzania on Lake Victoria. So I'm going to give a kind of very quick overview of some of the challenges that we found with PFD usage in those areas, and then John will take over with some of the things that we're doing to address that. So I'm sure many of you...
That's the RNLI presenter now.
So I'm sure that many of you have seen this figure of 100,000 deaths a year, which is the number of deaths associated with the fishing industry every year. This was a paper that was put out in 2022. And in and around East Africa, there's
Becky,
not a lot of...
Sorry,
Yes?
if you could just hold for just I don't know if that's Frankie on 447, but
it does sound like Frankie.
yeah, if you could put yourself on mute, Frankie, that would be great.
Frankie,
I recognize your voice.
You're heckling your own organization.
Just want to make sure you guys get a clear shot at presenting. Thank you, Frankie. Appreciate it.
That's quite right. Thank you. Can't get the staff these days, hey? So in East Africa, we've been looking at what the challenges are for drowning risk amongst small-scale fisheries. And when we say small-scale, we're talking about people who are going out in these kind of boats. They're open deck vessels. We're talking about somewhere between 4 and 6 crew per vessel, and a lot of what they're doing is going out fishing for their own livelihoods, to feed their families, or for small scale sale into markets. And if you look at these inland fisheries, the uptake of PFD usage is really, really low. So this draws on some of the information that we've collected around Lake Victoria in Tanzania, but also some of the work that's happened on Lake Victoria and Lake Albert in Uganda, and that's been done by Makerere University. Now, you might notice that Lake Victoria in Uganda has a hugely high observed PFD usage of 26%, compared to the other two where we're talking 1% or 2% at most. Part of the reason for that, as far as we understand, is that the armed forces, the army, are involved in policing PFD usage in Uganda, and they have quite a reputation for being pretty fearsome. They're not the sort of people you want to cross. But even in that situation, only 1 in 4 people are putting on PFDs when they go fishing. So why is that? What are the challenges that are leading to people drowning? We've got unstable, unseaworthy vessels going out. We've got very quick changes in weather on some of those lakes. Storms blow up very quickly. We've got challenges around PFD usage, and we've got the need for people to go fishing every day to make sure that their families are fed. And today we're focusing on the PFD usage. And we had a look at how you access a PFD if you are a small-scale fisher in Tanzania, and there really are challenges at every point in the chain. So what tends to happen is that there's no PFDs being made in Tanzania. They're all being imported, normally from China. They're sold in bulk in the biggest cities, and then smaller scale traders will sell those in the local towns around the lake, and then hopefully they get used. The imports are generally poor quality, however. So this is the most commonly available life jacket in Tanzania, and it's very much not a life jacket. It's got a buoyancy of 65 newtons. We did the ISO standard testing on this, and it does particularly badly in the stability test. So it will turn the wearer face down in the water unless they are actively working to keep their face out of the water. The other thing with this one, there were certain tests that they couldn't repeat because once you've tried to pull someone out of the water using this, you will have damaged this life jacket to the extent that it can't be reused. So there is some choice with life jackets. The one that I just showed you costs about $11 US, and that's round about the price point that that fishers think that they can afford to pay. You can get higher quality life jackets in the bigger cities, but they are more expensive, and more's the point, they require a significant investment of time and money to get to the cities to buy them, which is something that a lot of people just don't have the time and the money to do. To give you an indication of how those costs stack up, we're talking about just over $100 US for an outboard motor, and just over $2 US for a kilo of Nile perch or tilapia when we were doing this research. So the costs are really quite high compared to what people are bringing in. And there's a little bit of, there's a lack of clarity around who's responsible for this point of safety. So the fishers will say that it's the boat owners who need to ensure that safety equipment is available for the fishers, and the law is on their side on this. However, many boat owners will say that if you give a fisherman a life jacket, you'll never see it again, and they're not going to pour money into an endless pit. They say that they get sold, they get stolen, they get lost, they get used as pillows. They're not put to good use, so it's not something they're going to invest in. If you do get people wearing them, we did some trials with these, and the fishers really are not a big fan. So they said that they really rub around the neck. The belt it's not possible to make it tight enough that it can be made secure enough that it doesn't move around when you're wearing it. And many of these boats are being paddled out to fishing grounds that are 3 or 4 hours of paddling away from the shore. And in that kind of weather, when it's hot, the fishers have said it's just not possible to wear them when they're paddling for hours. So what we found from this and from other work, other research that's been carried out, is that there's a lack of knowledge and understanding of what the purpose of a life jacket is, or a PFD is, and how to use them. So there's an opportunity to improve that. But fishers really have to trust the product. There's been horror stories, particularly from Uganda, of drowned people being dragged ashore in waterlogged buoyancy aids, which reduces trust in those products. And they also have to trust the people who are teaching them about using those products. So if that's coming from the armed forces, there's going to be a lot less trust than if that's coming from other fishers who use those at the moment. And that really pushes us on to the last point, which is the lived experience of a drowning, either surviving a drowning or having witnessed a drowning, is really a huge motivator in people deciding whether or not to use PFDs. So there's lots of challenges with PFDs in these small-scale fishing communities, and their use definitely can be improved. But to do that, we really need to work closely with the communities to make sure that we are delivering solutions that work for them. And now I'm going to hand over to John, who will explain a little bit more about how we have been trying to do that.
Thanks, Becky. I'm going to share my screen in 2 seconds. Hoping that everyone can now see that.
We can see it, John.
That's perfect. Okay. So it's great to have this opportunity to talk to so many of you in this field and gain your advice on what we're doing. 3 organisations involved in here: the Meadow, a Tanzania-based organisation empowering communities for improved livelihoods; the RNLI, which is the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, a search and rescue drowning reduction charity based in the UK; and Design Without Borders, who have helped us visualise the process. And a lot of the visuals you'll see in this presentation are developed by Design Without Borders, working with the community. So this project, we've been using design methodology, and this is an adaptive version of the UK Design Council's double diamond technique. And as you can see, we've gone on a journey from the challenge on the left there all the way through to the proposed solution on the right. And the thing about using this design methodology is that the early stages, which are these discover and define stages, really make us really design the right things with users in mind. And then the later stages, the develop and deliver, they make us design things in the right way. So it's been very, very inclusive and involving the community all the way along in that. So we held a series of stakeholder workshops, and these are all these wonderful people that were in those stakeholder workshops in 2023. These represent many of the people in Tanzania that are involved with buoyancy in some form, all the way from the community up to the Prime Minister's office. And we were able to build a really clear picture around regulation, enforcement, taxation, and the supply chain of PFDs. And we kind of visualize this. And I should think that many people on the call, these are kind of things that you've maybe experienced in areas of work that you've been doing. But in terms of regulation, we looked at how the Trans-Enerian Bureau of Standards regulated, and they did bring along a copy of the ISO standard for PFDs. We looked at issues with enforcement, and the main issue I think there is just the staffing levels that people can't get out to enforce PFD use. We looked at taxation. And we looked at supply and use in terms of supply chain. How does a life jacket get from being imported to the customer or to the fisher that needs them? We started off looking for, as Becky said, available PFDs as a starting point. And in Mwanza City, 3 PFDs were available. And we got those tested, and I just thought the people on this call might be interested in some of that testing. These are the 3 jackets we tested. The middle one being the most prevalent on the lake and the most used, which was obviously a buoyancy aid. It did have the SOLAS reg certification mark on it, but we'll talk about that a bit later. That middle one costs around $9. And the one on the right around $10, and then this one on the left, which was a $28, is more of, as you'll notice, it's more of an abandonment jacket for a ferry or larger vessel. In terms of how these fared, unfortunately, none of them passed SOLAS certification. The middle jacket did. We asked them to look at the ISO standard and the compliance with that, and none of them did comply with ISO 12402. But the middle jacket did offer some elements in terms of flotation, which were obviously going to be useful to someone in that jacket. So that was the kind of existing product analysis. And as Becky said, there was some results where specifically the jacket on the right held actually the user had to maintain a swimming action to keep their kind of head above the water. So that's the testing. We then convened some experts. We've worked with the WHO for a number of years, and we have along with Neil Patchett. I don't know if anyone's. I'm not sure if he's on this in this group, but we worked on creating a global technical buoyancy group for low middle income countries, and convene the experts and ask their opinions, use their opinion. I'm really glad we found your group as well, in that we'd love to solicit your advice on what we're doing too. And we also talked to communities, and we wanted to know what communities thought and what they wanted and what they needed. So we developed a methodology where we consulted with those communities and talked with them about what was wanted. And this is what, over a kind of a period of a few days, we undertook a workshop, and this is what they wanted. And this is from the fishers and the boat owners, the government stakeholders, all kind of agreed that they wanted an ISO standard life jacket to 12402, and we've gone for /4 for 100 Newton requirement, due to the fact that anything bigger would really impede paddling and use of nets. And the users wanted, they definitely wanted a buckle, they wanted a whistle, they wanted visibly well-placed reflectors, a foam pouch, and they wanted a price point of 40,000 Tanzanian shillings. So they wanted a $16 retail life jacket, basically, and they needed that with a payment plan, and that's proportional payments over a period of a few months or a year. That price point puts quite a lot of people out of buoyancy as well. As we know that 90% of people that are drowning around the world are from low middle income countries, and the people that are priced out of even a $12 life jacket are people like the Boda Boda, who transport fishing gear to and from the boat, from the shore. The Wasomba and Gese, who are mainly women who deal with the trading of fish and go and get the fish from the boats and bring them to shore, and also water passengers. So we wanted to do something about that, and we worked with the community to provide something that perhaps would give them some buoyancy. So we did develop this, which is the local life ring, which holds 10 500 milliliter smaller water bottles. I'm sure you've all seen kind of different kind of buoyancy solutions with water bottles, but this one gives you a bit of inherent failure capability in terms of it has 10 smaller buoyancy devices within it. And this was something that people could clip around themselves, but also clip together. So clip 4 of them together to create group buoyancy. They could clip 2 of them together to enable them to step up back onto the boat. And you could use them as a kind of a lifeguard rescue tube, as it were, as well. So we've been developing this and making sure that the community are able to perhaps purchase it from local tailors, which obviously adds to the livelihoods of those particular group of people. And the instructions that we've made here are we developed with actually in Zanzibar. There's a tailor's school in Zanzibar, and we work with them to see what the best way of providing guidance for tailors would be. So we're going to be asking the community to produce these and seeing if there's a community want. Well, we know that there's a community want, but seeing if there's a community acceptance of them. We didn't just want to say, look, here's a new buoyancy device. We wanted to say, look, make an informed choice. And what we want to do is provide information to the community so that they can make that informed choice themselves. So the next stage will be giving the fishers information, the community's information, is to say, look, here's a ISO standard, here's a buoyancy aid that's already available, here's a local life ring, and these are the things that it's going to offer you. The next steps, we've produced a supplier request for information, which is a kind of looking at the spec that we perhaps want for the jacket. We're consulting with regulatory authorities in Tanzania, government agencies, and also local retailers, because obviously bringing another jacket into the supply chain has ethical considerations. I suppose this is an ask for yourselves as well, really, on the call. If there's any manufacturers on the call, we have consulted with many. Can you provide a $16 retail life jacket to the fishers? Something that's ISO standard, that's got a clip-based securing mechanism, got a whistle, reflective material, well ventilated, and not restricted to arm movements when paddling or handling nets. We do realise it's a big ask for a pocket for mobile phone, because that's going to add to the cost and the possibility for a basic light or crotch strap, because as we've seen, the research says that crotch straps are quite important in these devices. We have found this one here, which is the Lalizas life jacket, which has a price point similar to what we need. It is SOLAS approved, so we're going to be looking at perhaps sourcing these, but also looking at other avenues. With the buoyancy device, the local life ring, we're going to be testing the instructions and providing our own kind of engineering and rescue tests to these devices, similar to the process that we use when we design lifeboats in the UK, and we'll be consulting government agencies and communities on that manufacture. As Becky said, this is not in isolation. This is a part of a bigger project that we're undertaking in Tanzania. From the bottom up approach, we're looking at a fisher safety course for the fishers, and we're looking at a top-down approach using advocacy at a policy level. We're working on safety signage, emergency response, and also weather reporting, BMU strengthening, and stakeholder engagement. The future is that we'd love and I'm sure everyone on the call would love for East African countries to produce their own life jackets rather than import them. So I think the future would for us would be amazing if we could have specifically a Tanzanian produced life jacket or manufactured life jacket, and then perhaps even an East African life jacket. Thank you.
great presentation. And I could think of a few questions, but I think it might be, since we do have a few manufacturers here today, it might be good to get their perspective on a few of the questions you've raised. I don't know if I think I saw Lily. And let's see. So she may be.
Sorry, I am
Let's-
here. I was just
okay.
trying to come off of mute.
It's okay.
Man, I was away this weekend working an event in New Orleans, flying with my laptop, and it just resents me once I plug it back in at home. It just like doesn't want to work. But let me see if I can get my camera on too. There we go.
Okay, wonderful.
Great. So I'm calling in from New Hampshire. I work for Mustang Survival, which of course is based in Vancouver, Canada. We do production in Canada, the US, and in Asia. And we are starting to do some ISO product out of the UK. We have a UK office now. But John, when you asked that question, could Mustang make a $16 retail jacket with those features? Honestly, wow, we'd be challenged. I mean, we tend to make pretty high-end stuff anyways. That's more of where we play. But this is difficult. I mean, I guess the challenge is then like, where can the funding sources come to support that gap? Because I don't know if we've got someone from Kent in the
Yes, I'm here.
call.
This is
Okay, there
Wayne.
you are.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Wayne. I mean, could you guys do it at 16 retail? I don't know.
Well, the part that I found most interesting in the presentation was the idea of using the bottles. I think that's
Totally.
that's a great idea. I think I'm curious as to the regulatory body's response to that. Recognizing the economic issues, is that something that they are agreeable to or accepting of? Or, is there any sort of enforcement at all?
Yeah, that's you're right on it. Actually, I was a judge on a US boat design innovation life jacket design contest like in 2015. And if someone had submitted that idea of just making a simple sleeve, putting the bottles in, that's pretty genius actually. And it's using single-use plastic bottles, of which we've got an abundance of, and it's an environmental problem. That's a kind of awesome reuse solution. But could it be recognized as a life-saving device, as Wayne says?
Well,
interesting.
I mean, so I think we have some of the answer to that question in that at the moment the Standards Bureau in Tanzania, and I think this is true for a lot of countries in that region, they're very understaffed. There's not a huge amount of enforcement that they are able to do. So they will take international standards, they will adopt those international standards, but then they're not necessarily able to enforce them, which is why a lot of the buoyancy aids that are coming into Tanzania are not meeting ISO standards. And so in some ways, it's unlikely that they would be happy to adopt that standard because it feels like it's a step down. But if it's something that we can get to fishers and they can safely use or use in a way that increases their safety, it's not the full solution, but it's certainly a step towards a solution.
To add to what Becky was saying there, we have consulted with the agencies that are responsible for enforcement, TASAC in Tanzania, And I think they're kind of happy with it if we call it an additional element. So obviously the life jacket is the key thing that we want a fisher to wear. But actually, if we and they come up with the name themselves actually, which is the local life ring. So we called it kind of a local life ring to remove the terminology away from buoyancy, product PFD,
Right.
so that this is kind of an additional thing. And they're reasonably happy with that. But yeah, I totally echo the standard kinds of what you're saying is that the standard prices out the very people that need it because of that. And we've gone round and round with can we create a lower standard? But actually, I think the experts were saying, the ISO experts that sit on the panels are saying we can't. This is the ISO standard. But we can produce buoyancy guidelines or design guidelines.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really, really interesting question.
Yeah. Well, and I think probably Wayne would agree, if our material costs could be lower, maybe we could meet that price.
Well,
But I mean, the material costs alone are going to be there.
Well, the 12402 Part 4 standard, in order to make a level 100 versus a level 50, or what we here in the US call our type 2, that looks just like that, the orange horse collar, that the type 2 is something that could meet that retail price. But when you get to the level 100 with the additional requirements of the reflective and all of that,
Right.
and the additional strength requirements, and a little more buoyancy, the component cost, as Lily said, the component cost gets bad. I was intrigued by the bottle idea because I'm already envisioning a way to do that so that it would actually probably perform like the Part 4 device, and be very easy to produce. I'm sort of at a loss as to where and how to set that up. Yeah, sure. I could spend a few months in Tanzania and create a factory, but
Well, it could work something that way.
yeah. But
well, in my mind leaps immediately seeing that very simple, make a sleeve, stuff it with water bottles is, there's a huge problem with life jackets being used, abused for refugees.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've seen pictures, probably those giant stacks of life jackets then discarded on the other end when they arrive. And a lot of extortion going on, selling a life jacket for, a lot of money on the other end. And, gosh, I too looked at that local life ring sleeve thing going, wow, that's pretty ingenious.
That could easily be produced in something that would perform better than just simply a waist ring. Easily within that, less than that $16 retail. I would just guess at half that, but it would take some support from the recognition body to accept it.
You know what? I just wanted to jump in here because I think that's one of the things that I thought was so intriguing about John and Becky's presentation at iFish is that it doesn't matter if you're talking about developing countries and price points that seem reasonable for fishers there, or if you're talking about the same thing in the United States or developed countries. The issue is how do you develop something that fishermen will actually wear and then get it approved? Because we all know that the U.S. Coast Guard approval process takes a very long time. So, people can still use the life jackets, but that approval complicates things a bit. And I think I was just surprised that you've run into the same challenges working in Tanzania or whether you're working in Maine or Massachusetts. So but I do think that working in Tanzania introduces a whole additional layer of complexity, which is how do you resource things, how do you get them into people's hands, how do you you know, ensure that they're working under the circumstances that they're dealing with. So yeah, it's really innovative and ingenious, but I realize there's still some kinks you guys are still working out. So, did anyone else have questions from those who are attending today? And actually, if anybody just has observations or thoughts or that he'd like to share that might be beneficial to John or Becky, please throw those out too.
Like advice and criticism as well.
John, I'd be happy to throw some ideas around if you want to try to approach the uh, regulatory bodies with acceptance of something such as that bottle idea. That would be interesting.
Oh, John, we can't hear you. I don't know. You're not on mute, so I don't know why we couldn't hear you.
Hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, just say thank you, Wayne. We'll definitely take you up on that offer. If that's okay.
And I would also like to know, so some of the resources that you have developed, I'm wondering where those might be available for others who are working in developing countries who need some simple solutions to share with local folks. That might be great to
show
pay.
you the last slide.
Okay.
Let me, which had the all important QR code on it. So let me just, let me just.
Okay, yeah, no, please do. Yeah.
You again. So yeah, that's the QR code in the center there will take you to the RNLI's International Resources page. So we've been working over the last sort of 10 years to adapt best practice into something that's suitable in a low middle income country environment, and through sort of research-based approach to intervention design. And through that QR code, you can access a range of those kind of technical resources, ranging from aquatic survival, teaching people how to swim, to setting up a lifeguard service, to setting up a search and rescue service, all the way through to design and manufacture of community-based equipment. So you can basically make a throw line if you wanted to for a couple of dollars, or a bottle ring. So yeah, the resources are there, and we're adding and updating them sort of regularly. We'll also be publishing all our kind of design reports as we move along with the process in Tanzania and in Bangladesh. So yeah, that's that QR code on there.
Great, thank you. All right. So I don't know if anyone has updates on life jacket related topics. If you do, just take yourself off of mute and feel free to share. Okay. All right. So I think the next thing we have on the agenda then is Kim Gertz is going to give us a few updates. Next steps.
Yeah, I wanted to thank John and Becky for the presentation. I appreciate you guys. I know that the time is a little bit different for you, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that presentation. So I actually just chatted with our Fishing Partnership Support Services folks, and they are willing to give us an update on their life jacket project for the next call. So I'll make sure to get that on the calendar for September, but we're always looking for new presenters and new ideas. So anytime you have a suggestion, you're welcome to contact me directly. As Julie said, this call will be uploaded on our iFish website, so you'll be able to review it and other previous calls there. But Fishing Partnership has agreed to do the next one, so thank you to Fishing Partnership for your willingness to do that.
And so just to keep in mind the next call, and this is outlined in today's agenda, but our next international PFD call will be September 4th. So hoping you can all join us. I did also put the link to the call for papers for the special iFish edition in Journal of AgriMed. So if anyone wants to access that in the chat, you can do that. And then, you know, I did notice that Core is on the call, and Core, sorry to call you out, but I was wondering if you think that there's any initiatives from Fish Platform that might be presented at our December meeting. well, you know what, I'll check in with Cora later, but that might be another potential presentation topic we can explore for December. So, all right, I guess that's it for today, unless anybody has some last minute thoughts or questions to throw out there.
I had one sort of quickie question to
Sure, Russell.
Russell
Yeah.
here. I don't think I'm on video for some reason. Hold on. There, we'll start the video. I didn't realize it was off. Sorry. There was a statistic in that presentation that I missed. It said 100,000 deaths annually. Would the presenters be willing just to clarify? Is that global? Is that include recreational? Is that just commercial fisheries?
Yeah, so that was from the hang on a second. I can put the reference into the chat for you, but it was from the Fish Safety Foundation report triggering deaths, which was published in 2020, and that was an estimated 100,000 deaths in the fishing industry globally per year. So it wasn't just commercial fishing, but it's the fishing industry as a whole, taking into account small scale as well as commercial fishing.
All right, thanks. Because it was just, it's a big number, so I just wanted to understand it. But thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we hope to see you September 4th at the next meeting. And special thanks to John and Becky for a great presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice.
That
Yes.
was really interesting.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
All right. Take
Thanks,
care, everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.